Welcome everyone to today's knowledge sharing session brought to you by Print Week and Bindwel. For the next 60 minutes of this masterclass, The Future of Bookbinding, we have P. Sajid, the Managing Director of Impel Services, Bindwell Stelda Group. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on the cusp of Print Pack. We will discover agile bookbinding solutions with Sajid. He'll provide insights on the current market trends and opportunities, and also talk about Bindwell's comprehensive range of bookbinding solutions, including the high-speed ACOM bind line for textbooks and the versatile print bind framework for agile production. One of the things Sajid will focus on is the challenges in digital printing. Almost all of us have questions about quality, about cost, and about investments. During his presentation, he will provide a snapshot of what is happening with digital print. Over to you, Sajid, sir.
Thank you, Shriram. Thank you, Print Week, for organizing this. We had initially thought of, I hope you can see my screen. We had initially thought of calling this as the future of bookbinding. Then I realized, who am I to talk about the future of bookbinding? This was sort of written off in the early 2000, after the first decade of 2000, the new millennium. They said the books would vanish and something called as digital media, e-books would take over. And then we saw some challenges being faced by bookbinding or the production of books globally. But then there was a resurgence again. So book as a product has tested the time centuries of its existence. Instead of future, I would rather call it as evolution of bookbinding. And we are living through an age of flexibility and precision, and also of sustainability. Why are we discussing this? There's no doubt, at least in schools, phones are getting replaced by books. Digital devices are not allowed in many of the countries that had seen the evolution into digital devices for education a few years back. Let it be France, Brazil, Luxembourg, Italy, Netherlands, and Australia. And there are a lot of studies which are coming in after the banning of these digital devices into schools to say that children are socializing better. Their attention in the class has really gone up. There are no sounds or buzzers or vibrations from their mobile phones which are distracting themselves or their neighbors. And definitely the teachers and academicians are finding the performances improving. So it's good news for us who are in the print industry. Though there are many studies in addition to this suggest that reading a book is definitely more carving a impression in your mind rather than scanning through a digital device. So as far as the market for books are concerned, I think the pandemic very diverse trends as far as the different types of books are concerned. So trade books, as we know, is the fiction and non-fiction books. They went through a real high. I mean, the sales skyrocketed because people are sitting at home and then reading books. And the educational books saw a decline, definitely. Basically because schoolrooms they turned from the physical classrooms to online classrooms. But the digital saturation was so much so in this period. When the pandemic ended, books came back with a bang. be it schools or be it coaching classes and things like that. Though there was some declines seen in the case of printed fiction and non-fiction books. So the trends which are emanating out of the largest markets for books, which is United States of America, is that 2023 was one of their best, and then 2024 saw a decline as far as fiction and non-fiction, what we call as the trade books are concerned. But there has been a huge increase in the case of textbooks. We'll come to that. I mean, one of the best examples where digital devices are being replaced by print by countries Denmark. So Denmark as well as Sweden. So take the example of most of the Scandinavian countries have had, they were the first to, embrace digital education, and they are one of the first to, even reverse it now. So 15 years after replacing books with computers, Sweden is now investing 104 million euros to bring back printed books. The officials believe that the digital first approach has actually failed to develop fundamental skills like reading and writing. So this is again a case point where it is leading to the situation where it's better to read from physical books than the digital devices. Let's look at some of these region-wise insights. I already spoke about America. Digital inkjet for trade book has become more or less the norm. There is short run as well as micro runs, even going up to one book model, which is very prevalent in North America. Huge increase in K8 textbooks. There are printers like Bradford and Bigelow, one of the largest book printer based out of USA. And they are expecting a 20% increase in demand from the education, the textbooks market during the year of 2025. The region accounts for 35% of global digital printing market. We will come to that, how sustainability and innovation is becoming more and more important, and how is digital print helping that. There are significant investments are happening in digital print. Europe, strong emphasis on sustainability drives growth in digital printing. High quality printing is essential for preserving the vibrant colors and sharpness of printed material. So a lot of these academic books, a lot of these higher education books also are going in that way. Are the numbers dropping? Yes, in many cases, but the number of titles are increasing, number of variants are increasing, personalization is the norms. When you come to Asia Pacific, the trend is a little different, like we see for India as well as in China. The educational books form the largest chunk of the segment within books. And with a young population like ours, we are seeing a huge growth in terms of numbers. For example, NCERT is talking about trebling their number when the syllabus is changing. We see the same trends happening in Indonesia, which is not very digitally dense yet. So you have more and more conventional textbooks being printed there. Latin America as well as Africa is also similar kind of case. Most of the exports from India to Africa are all long runs printed on web offset printing machines and bound on high-speed perfect binders. What are the major thing which is happening? We used to always say there is a long run and a medium run, and then there is short run. So we would want to revisit that term of medium run. What did we call as medium run? Like we need 10,000 copies, or let's say we need 8,000 copies, we need 20,000 copies. In this range, we used to call them as medium run, typically sheet fed printed, folded and bound either thread soon or a perfect bound. I'm saying from the angle of production as a book. The customer demands were basically for higher education or trade books of decent authors, I mean, who have a known readership. etc., etc. But that is changing. The tens of thousands are definitely dropping to thousands. I mean, 1,000 or 2,000 at best. And in many cases, let's take the example of trade where they print a book of a known author, but they still want to test the water. They print 1,000 books first, maybe using inkjet or digital printing. And if they feel the sales is pretty fast, then they shift to offset printing, which would be sheet fed offset. So there is still a little bit of ambiguity in terms of whether the job would be short run or medium run. So that medium run or the gray areas more or less getting merged with the name, which we would want to call it as hybrid. It could be either way. As we see year on year, the growth of digital printing has been huge. The quality has been becoming better and better, and the cost has been coming down. So we know this path is going to continue. Currently, the costs of investments in inkjet printers are considerable. It's like investing in a brand new sheet-fed offset machine. There are costs for running, but with more adoption and more usage, this is likely to come down and making this more and more viable for even longer. At this point, let's say 1,000 is, I mean, there are various claims, it could be 2,000, 3,000, things like that. But as far as the inkjet printing is concerned, digital inkjet printing, we would say it is roughly about 1,000 books. It's cheaper to do, it's easier to do, less wastage, and so on and so forth. So the landscape can be divided between the type of print, what is a printing machine that is ideally suitable for that, what are the advantages, and some of the use cases. You can just go through it. I mean, all of us know that it's a newspaper or a magazine of long run. Private and government textbooks, generally they are printed using web offset printing. There are some trade books where the volumes are known to be very high, like globally for Penguin Random House and many other publishers. There's a printer called as Clays in UK who does a lot of work on web offset printing, which is sheet fed. Which is Timson's. And there are books like religious books, like we have customers like Gita Press and many of the Bibles. All of them are generally printed using high-speed long-run machines, which are like web offset machines, and they connect to a bindery which is capable of handling that job. Medium run, again, I spoke about it. It's basically getting into gray area, whether it should it go to long or to short. So we have to at least address from the bookbinding side, because look at the hybrid side where you have a printing machine. You have sheet-fed offset printing machines, which are now capable of maybe printing 250 or 300 books runs. It may be a little difficult, but it's still possible due to the advancements of technologies. And there could be a competing product from digital there. So today we don't know when it comes to us. It has become agnostic, like whether it's printed on a sheet fed or on a web offset machine or on a short run inkjet printing machine. The signatures are different. We either have cut sheets or we have signatures folded out of a folding machine, or from web we directly get it either in the reel, the ribbon folding, or the regular cross fold formats. From there to take it over to bookbinding machines, we are looking at a hybrid scenario where, irrespective of where it comes from, you need a certain productivity, which is medium scale, and then address it using the post-press solutions that we have. So bookbinding is aligning with the kind of market requirements, the type of printing machines that are available today and what is being used by the customers. And last but not the least, the kind of requirements of the final customer. Do they need it in just in time? Is it a print on demand? Is it going to be very short run and stuff like that? So there is an evolution happening, and the more and more we think about it, we feel that a market like India, there is going to be a mix of these things happening. The same publisher or multiple publishers or multiple print buyers. As we see, some of these are very, some of the publishers today that we are talking about were not existent before. It's a uh, uh, new regime of publishing which is happening. So at least on the short runs and medium runs, there is a tug of war between sheet fed and digital media. There is quality issues being talked about. There's quality improvements happening. There are varying kind of levels of quality between different engines and so on. Let's look at the opportunities. These are some of the markets which we all know exist in countries like India. Textbooks, K-12, all the textbook corporations, be it NCRT, UP Textbook Corporation, Maharashtra, Balbharti, all the government organized, government controlled textbook publishing, which is basically printing books at a subsidized rate for the students to learn, for the state board schools as well as central board schools. Most of these are long run. I'm yet to come across runs less than 50,000, unless it's like in the case, let's take the example of Maharashtra, which is Marathi in the main medium, but Maharashtra also is closer to Karnataka, so there are some Kannada medium books. There will be some books in Urdu, so these runs could be less. So you could have hybrid run there. So you start with web and then come down to either sheet fed or inkjet. And then for at least for the private educational books, there is always, supplementary materials. There is some customization done, which could go into short run kind of thing. So all the three types of processes of making a book could exist in textbook printing. So earlier days, we used to imagine as a textbook printer would be, there is a big web offset machine and a series of saddle stitchers and some touch of binders. That makes a textbook printer. But today's textbook printer is thinking about web offset printing for long runs, maybe sheet fed or digital print for hybrid, and definitely short run for the kind of requirements in specialization, short run, real short run books to be made. Look at the possibilities of covering up your shortages and long run with short run and stuff like that. Academic publishing is basically higher education. Similar trend happens. The numbers are less. More and more scenarios of printing on webs in academic publishing is coming down. It's more of sheet fed, or because higher end higher classes they also need to have, let's say it's a medical book or things like that, then the quality of printing is very important. So either we need to go for a heat set web, or you should go for a cold shed offset printing. Hybrid run, definitely that is where this academic publishing is definitely there. It could go either way. Short runs are basically for notes, niche topics, and updates, and again customization. Focus training center. So I talked about a new form of publishing happening. So today, look at, test prep centers and training centers are similar. Training centers could be for courses like engineering and medical entrance coaching, and they also prepare you for test preparations. Then there are courses for CA examination. So as you go on higher up in the spectrum as far as education is concerned, higher education would mean that the numbers would be down. So you'll probably focus on sheet fed or digital print. You have very large training centers like Akash Education and stuff like that. They still do conventional offset printing because their numbers are huge. Now, why do they do books? So something which we need to understand is when we are talking about uh, education becoming digitalized. You don't need paper. You can directly use computers and things like that. So one is this theory about it's better to read books than read from a screen in order to understand and remember and things like that. And the other thing is a sheer compulsion that they are offering courses at a very high fee, and there are to be some giveaways or takeaways for the students. Plus, this is the best form of stopping piracy within their ecosystem. So if you want, if you pass a question paper on WhatsApp or these things, it's easily passed on to others, and their competitors get that, or people who are not enrolled gets in. So they find books to be the safest way of it, and they are one of the largest consumers of shorthand digital printing in India today. Trade publishing, the best form of books, form of the reading books. Unfortunate part about trade publishing or books to read are reading as a habit is not really growing. Reading is a tough habit to cultivate. It's not like watching a video. Our brains are not really tuned for it. So unless the parents read to their children, they will not. If they are not told a story in the beginning of their growing up, they don't end up reading. And most of the time, when they start reading up, they're forced to read the textbooks, and these things happen. But we are seeing resurgence. If you look at trade publishing in India, whether it is in Malayalam or whether it is in English or in Marathi, has grown in the past few years, typically after pandemic. And the growth has been predominantly been influenced by the growth in number of titles. So there are more books being written, and these books are probably not printed as much as what it used to be before. Today, you have the scope of doing maybe 1,000 books or maybe even 500 books to test market. So why do that? Trade publishing is long run. As far as trade publishing in India is concerned, I'm not sure of any printers who do trade publishing or the fiction and non-fiction books on web offsets. Generally, they are offset, sheet-fed offset machines with folded and perfect bond or thread sewn when it comes to a hardcover book. I gave you the example of Clays, which is in UK, which does the same type of books in web offset machine. There's a lot of scope for bringing in special effects into these books. These are things which we could discuss at a different stage. People are trying to make book reading very interesting by doing all that kind of thing. Self-publishing is just close to that. Some of the traditional traditional trade publishers also are into self-publishing, like Bindwel. I was told that the number of manuscripts rejected by a large publisher in India, upwards of 20,000 books, 20,000 manuscripts in a year. Just think if they were to be converted as self-publishing projects, that itself will talk about a very, very large requirement of self-publishing. Long runs are, I mean, the webs are definitely not these are either hybrid or short run. You start with a very small batch, maybe 100, 200, and then you go up if you feel it's going to sustain for more. At the moment you want to have specialization, like hardcover, self-published book with color and things like that, then you move into offset printing probably. Specialized niche publishers, it's a very large segment. It's still evolving. They have to balance the quality with the batch sizes. That is the biggest requirement for them. NGOs and educational initiatives. A lot of these NGOs are printing books. Government itself is printing a lot of books for these kind of applications. There is a lot of long run happening in that, and hybrid is definitely across all these things. If you see for all the applications, there is a likely switch between offset and inkjet happening. And can we say one can sustain this alone. It doesn't look like. So that's where we need to evolve. Maybe for some time, or as we go ahead, maybe offset printing machines would keep creating capabilities. Like now we hear about Heidelberg and Canon doing something. So there are things which are emanating to actually create hybrid presses. In bookbinding, definitely we have solutions for that. Since inkjet or digital printing is one of the most talked about subjects in India, a lot of printing machines are coming in. If you look at it from the capex perspective, it's still very expensive. Knowing an inkjet machine, knowing a digital printing machine, which is more on technology and electronics, I'm sure with more and more consumption, more and more machines on the field, more and more competition between the manufacturers, these prices should come down. Investment should become more and more feasible than what it is today. The ink costs have definitely come down. It's becoming more economical compared to offset printing, at least even in large volumes. I mean, these were large volumes in the past. Now, 1,000 is almost like an inkjet's domain. Quality is definitely a big challenge in terms of it's again also related to perception. To me, the book should be really readable. If I'm using a type of paper and if the ink is not looking as good as it should be, if it is training on the eye, then there is a problem. So publishers are treading this very carefully. Some of the very high-end quality printers in India are still resisting the move to go towards inkjet printing. They know printing much better, so I would not be commenting on them. So there seems to be some gap that needs to be made. You have a lot of examples of starting from 2011, be it Penguin Random House, Kindle Direct Publishing, Amazon Publishing. Globally, Amazon is printing digital inkjet and then using books on demand solution to. So there's absolutely no inventory requirements, and it's immediate fulfillment. So huge benefits when it comes to fulfillment or e-commerce sites like Amazon. A lot of Indian publishers are moving to inkjet for sure. The worst part of the publisher's job is you print a book, you send it out to a trade, and whatever you don't consume or whatever trade doesn't consume or not able to sell comes back on a consignment basis, and we do what is called as pulping. So which is using this paper to be pulped into using these waste books or the unsold books to be converted into pulp, which is very sad. So wastage is something that they have found inkjet printing to help. So to predict how much you will sell is again a big challenge. But since you don't need to make a plate, you can immediately start printing and then bind and then send it. There's a lot of case studies of our own customers. One example is Saurabh Printer Pack in Noida, one of the longest standing book printers in Delhi, has done lots of jobs for long run as well as medium run, as they have both web offset and shipper. They're converting slowly, completely into digital printing, and according to the promoter, Sudhir Gulati, uh, most of their customers remain the same. So they are evolving along with the customers, and in that they are also finding new customers. Workflow becomes very important. You have you have a customer which could be print buyer, uh, passing on a file to you for printing. Now this would be printed using multitudes of machines that you have, and then sent to a binder based on the kind of quantity requirements. Long runs you can require high speed binding line, or short runs you can require short run or book of demand and some. So how these machines communicate are becoming more and more important. So manufacturers like us are supposed to talk to each other, understand something. So we now bookbinding machines, we have facilities of reading at QR code or 2D code, uh, irrespective of where the book has come from. The machine is ready to accept that signatures as well as the cover. And then we can also connect machines using uh, some language which is spoken between machine to machine, which is JDF. So these are things which one needs to think about before um, creating a landscape for your future. Buying machines is important. So while investing, you also need to see what is going to be the workflow. So proper understanding about what the customer needs and how this will be controlled within our own space is becoming more and more important. And the points which we have already discussed. So I'll now come to the next part of the presentation. We will have time for Q&A after this. We are continuing with the journey from Drupa 2024. We were proud to present uh, India's first books on demand machine there. This has attracted a lot of people because they did not see such a requirement or a solution coming from India. We are seeing book of one or books on demand to be becoming more and more dominating in most of the developed markets. But I still feel for a country like India, short run could be the solution rather than a book of one. Um, as, uh, uh, as because of our population and diversity and requirements of books and things like that. What we are trying to present in Printpack within our stall in hall number 9, as you enter, you'll see us. There are going to be 3 zones separated by the requirement of the customer, your customer, the requirement of speed, agility, accuracy, etc., etc. So the first one is what we call a sprint. Sprint is nothing but smart print. Printing is definitely becoming smarter than before. You have digital printing leading this segment. So we have collaborated with many of the inkjet printer manufacturers and suppliers present in Printpack, and we will be doing their different jobs. Most of them recognized by way of a QR code, which is printed on the book. The machines that we are showing there are Insta, which is a one book model, Freedom 2K, which is a short run binder, and Trimit 30C Freedom, which is again any type of book, any size of book. The machine would set itself and then do the trimming or binding as may be the case. And we still feel a lot of marathon runners are in India. Most of the printers still are managing volumes that are huge by any global standards, be it for domestic consumption or for exports to countries like Africa. We are also seeing, like I said in the beginning, countries like Indonesia, where we are seeing demand for such machines. These are bind lines where you connect a gatherer to a perfect binder and to a conveyor connected to a trimmer. We call it as a marathon framework because this needs to be fast, enduring, and relentless. So we will have that is other zone. So you start with sprint, which is short run, smart printing and binding, and then you go up to marathon. In between, we present what is called as relay. So you'll see that we have picked up the names from athletics. The 100-meter dash is sprint. Then we have a relay here. Relay is where it's very important that each component is talking to each other well. This is where we see more and more Indian customers investing in the future You have to have a varied kind of infrastructure as far as printing is concerned. But when it comes to binding, can you have different types of binding for everything? It's a bit challenging because India is a country with limited space available, land available for production centers. So we see a lot of interest in this region where now we are talking about, you have on one end you have connected networks like the Sprint, which has to talk to the printing machine and to your workflow and your IT systems and so on. And on the other side, you have very predictable high-speed production lines like Marathon. And then you have Relay, which needs to talk between each other. It may not be a case where the handshake is physically happening. It could be near line instead of what we call as either inline or offline. So we will have our BW 2500s connected to a trimmer by way of a nearline configuration, in which case the space requirement is not so much. But the trimmers and the binders are evolving so that it can take both short run and long run. You need connectivity together, we can provide you that. So we are trying to find whatever be your requirement in terms of printing, whether it's short run, long run, or hybrid runs, we have a solution for it. So it will be very, very interesting to understand things starting from the binding, going back to the printing. So that's what we are trying to present. So this is our invite to all of you. There's a QR code here to register for the event in which is starting from the coming Saturday in Greater Noida. We would be glad to answer any of your questions there, as well as if you have any doubts related to whatever I spoke about so far, we can take a Q&A now. Just before that, I'll try to just go through the key takeaways or whatever I wanted to present today. Again, the future was probably a misnomer. It is more of the evolution of what is happening. Definitely, there is a shift happening to printed books, which is good for all of us. Textbook demand growth is happening in all markets, whether it is US, India, China, Indonesia, all the markets that we are seeing, which is again positive. Countries are reinvesting back into print, like what we heard about the story of Denmark or Sweden. Changing print runs, the large runs are traditional, still relevant. There is a growing shift to shorter runs from 10,000s to 1,000, which is what we are talking about, the hybrid rates. Single book printing globally, it is increasing. There is a rapid growth for it. India's digital print will predominantly remain focused on short-run production. This is my belief. May not be what everybody thinks about. Challenges in digital printing, everybody is keeping on debating, but now the convenience is so much that those challenges are more or less taken care of. The costs have come affordable, the quality is acceptable, and the benefits of getting just in time or having to do with less inventory, quicker turnaround, all these things are huge benefits. High potential for customized educational training books and self-publishing. Whatever is happening in the entertainment world, like Netflix, is happening everywhere. So earlier we used to have you need to sit down in front of a TV and watch whatever you want, and you kept on changing. Now today the levels of content and personalization available, and the media's own understanding of you as you start watching it, like in the case of Netflix, that is coming into printing also. It's very important to strategically invest. Like I said, you should also have a real plan in terms of what all am I going to do, what are my customers, how will I service my existing customers, and what are the new types of customers whom I want to acquire. All those discussions need to go. Printpack is a good event to look at a lot of hardware and software related to that. We are presenting Sprint, Relay, and Marathon. We hope we are able to show the technology that we have indigenously, proudly developed in India. with our long understanding about bookbinding. So thank you. I'll with this I'll move to the Q&A sessions.
Thank you, Sajid sir. I think you sort of walked us through the trends in the industry now,
Yeah.
focused on, how the industry is transitioning, uh, and like you said, the evolution of print and the bookbinding is what you spoke about. And of course, all the products that you're going to be showcasing right out of a track and field event, sprint relay and marathon. Um, I'm particularly fascinated by the Sprint Bind Yatra at Printpack 2025 that is going to happen. Like you mentioned, it is going to happen from February 1st to 5th at the India Expo Center in Greater Noida, and you are at Hall 9A, right? So, what is the plan for short-run digital book production in terms of the Bind Yatra?
So the idea is that it's important, and today relevance of inkjet printing or digital printing in books are growing multifold. We today spoke about being cautious about certain cases, where would hybrid help and where would pure digital help and things like that. It is important for an ecosystem to build. Uh, it's not enough for just one manufacturer to talk about it. It's also important that all the people involved in that are discussing something for the benefit of the customer. Now, who's the customer? Here is a print buyer. The traditional thing about earlier, a publisher printing it, distributing it through dealers, and then it's going to a school or a college, or somebody is buying directly from the bookstore. All those things are evolving. I mean, the way books are distributed and things like that. So it is important that whoever is a print buyer today, like we spoke about a lot of niche areas like test prep centers, coaching classes, and self-publishing. So we are trying to connect with them. So in our whole career of last 3 decades, we have always kept on discussing with the whole printed book publishing value chain, whether it's a publisher, whether it's a printer, whether it's a paper supplier, whatever it is. We always wanted to keep in touch so that we can take part in that whole journey and plus help our customers attain the best possible solutions. So here it's an attempt to do that. There is a changing ecosystem as far as the print buying is concerned, and our customers are all as printers, as definitely it's a very high intensive, capital intensive kind of trade business. Printing is definitely that. So it's very important that it is the money is spent in the right fashion. It's very important that they communicate with their customers in the right fashion. And it's also important to align this whole ecosystem. What are the printing available? What are the challenges? How is it better than offset? How is it more expensive, cheaper? All that kind of. So it is important. So what we are doing is we are talking to a lot of these print buyers and then bring them to our booth. And we have also tied up with a lot of digital inkjet printing manufacturers like at Exco from Insight. We have Founder from Technova. We have Nozzle Jet Press Line of Monotech, Orient, HP, and so on and so forth. So we would be actually showing the books done on their machines, respective of the machines. We could then take the customer around on all the possibilities. So if you're saying 1,000, then where do you go? If you're talking about 100 or 1, then what is the solution? So that's what Sprint Yatra is all about.
That's sorry. That sounds like a great idea. I think you also answered what I wanted to address next. In how does the Sprint Yatra meet the needs of publishers, digital print providers, and boutique book manufacturers? Do you want to highlight anything else in terms of how you plan to do this? Yes, you are planning to bring them all together. Is there any specific roadmap that you have for now, Sajid sir?
So we have reached out to many of these print buyers, and our team is in touch with them, and they're supposed to come to our booth, and there will be a digital as well as a printed map of where these solutions are available within PrintPack. So it's being very open about what is available and what is the kind of quality aspirations the buyer has. He or she could actually walk through that, and then also understand the importance of the workflow. I mean, how does it finally work within the setup of a printer? So I'm not sure we will be able to answer all the questions because India is in its real growth phase. We have still not evolved as countries like Japan or US. So it's going to take some time. In the meantime, and also we are talking about huge investments as far as the whole capacity is concerned. So what is the via media solutions can we do in this fashion? Lots of discussion. So post this, I think we'll again collaborate, sit together, have discussion sessions, use platforms like Print Week, spread the word in terms of what is the right way to invest into this kind of a business.
Amazing. That leads me right into that leads me to my next question. We've been seeing or rather, we've seen the rise and rise of the single book printing. And there has been a rapid growth in demand for one book runs in the US, Europe, and like you said, the Japanese market. My question is, what is the update about India's digital print market? Would it be fair to say we are predominantly focused on short run production?
Yes, I mean, there's no doubt about it. As I spoke about it. So we have printers like Repro Books, Manipal, who are into uh, short run as well as the one book model. But India is predominantly, and I'm sure if you look at their own share of short runs versus one book, the short runs would definitely be more.
But do you see us moving in that direction, Sajid sir, in the sense, are we?
Not. I mean, the demand or the requirement of books in large markets like US is very different from India.
Got it.
I think for a long period of time, I might be proven wrong, but I'm okay with that. And for a long period of time, it is likely to remain short run. So if you ask all the inkjet printing manufacturers who are focusing in the Indian market, they are talking about 50 books, 5 books, 25 books. It's never one book. So one book requires a completely different ecosystem and workflow for that, which people like Retro Books have already got.
Got it. Got it. I think there are a few questions that have come on a chat. I'll come back to some more that I have on my own. So there is a question on how to increase. This is a slightly technical question. How to increase depth and width of online crease to avoid cracking at fold in boards? Ask Vijay Sin Patel.
So if you're talking about creasing, I understand this could be related to the covers. So there are methods of increasing and decreasing the creasing depth, and there are different types of tools available. You would see those different types of tools in our display in print pack. But just to give an idea, a lot of this is dependent on the cover, uh, whether it's the right grain direction. That the moment you get into a wrong grain as far as the cover is concerned, then you are likely to see crackings. Then you need to handle that cover a little bit different when compared to the other one. There's a lot of mastering that art and science kind of thing when it comes to cover creasing. And you have different types of whether it is metallic or plastic wheels, which are available for creasing, which will have a different kind of effect on these covers. Let's say, for example, aqueous coated covers can actually create problems when it comes to creasing, but there are solutions available today. Uh, so it's not a pure hardware solution. It is also about how what are the things that you need to take care of while these covers are printed or made. So combination of that can definitely remove all the problems that you face in this. It's a very good question. It's a tough one in terms for trying to explain it in few minutes. I would rather show it along on a machine and then see how these things happen. I cannot hear. Shriram, you're muted. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. So I was just telling that maybe Vijay Sin Patil should visit Printpack and meet you in person so that you can walk him through and answer this question in detail.
We would be delighted.
Yeah. There is an anonymous question. Since CapEx is challenging in industry now, can Bindwell retrofit or modify existing machines to meet present changes in demand is a question that is being asked.
So I mean, as a machine manufacturer, what we know is the cost of retrofitting or changing a machine is more expensive than building new. Given that there is always a requirement for existing machines, existing technology in some part of the country. There's a very large country with different requirements. We have so many villages. We still have some of those villages where we have not marked a dot yet. There's no perfect binder there. So we could always swap those machines, which will be much easier, because trying to do any retrofit at the customer's place or at our place are prohibitively expensive. So it's not as an investment strategy, I would not advise that. Best is to swap the machine.
Got it. I'm going to mix it up with the question from Noel Dikuna, who's in the fabulous countryside of Goa. He wants to know, he says, rather embossing, foil stamping, UV coating, does it affect the bookbinding process, especially in a short run or book of one? Can it be tricky, or how? What is your take on this?
So it's very similar to the first question in terms of, you know, all these overcoating or any embellishments which is happening on a cover. It's going to have an issue related to the creasing or the finish of your spine creases. Sometimes we get very thick sheet of cover, wrong grain direction, and then what you have inside as a book is very thin. So these are challenges that we generally get with respect to the cover. But there are ways of addressing this. But the strict no-nos kind of thing is that do not print anything, do not coat anything on the spine area. Because finally you're going to use hot melt adhesives. And unless it's a polyurethane reactive hot melt adhesives, any of the adhesives that we are talking about will have problems with solvents coming into them. So as long as there is nothing on that no entry area of the spine, inside spine of the cover, we can manage the rest.
Amazing, sir. So there is, in fact, a very similar line question on, is there any specific binding techniques for working with fine art papers without damaging it? Kedar Bide wants to know this.
Again, the situation is in terms of the GSM thickness. What is the final book size going to be? Is it going to be the same paper along with or mixed with other types of paper? Is it on the right grain direction? There is no limitation per se. There are limitations when it comes to non-tearable plastic kind of paper, non-tearable paper and things like that. As the fine art is concerned, we have not come across any kind of system. But as far as paper is concerned, it is a natural substance extended into something different. So it's always better to test.
Got it. There is a lot of demand for the presentation in general. So the Print Week team and the Bindwell team will put together, collate the presentation, and we will share it with all of you who have participated in this webinar after the session is over. So please don't worry, you will have all the wisdom that Sajid sir had shared with us today.
No, I would like someone,
yes,
people to challenge it, because that is the way we will go forward. Because everything what I might have spoken about may not be the right direction, right evolution. There could be challenges in my thinking. So it's definitely important that we keep the dialogue up. You should send us questions. We have a WhatsApp group as well as WhatsApp as well as a website where we can put in these questions. I'll have my colleagues like Suresh answering them, or I can answer some of the business or the application related questions.
got it. Uh, there is a question about commercial. Again, I think Selvin, if you can take that question and maybe connect, that would be great. I'm going to go on to another question from an anonymous attendee. For a roll-to-roll digital inkjet printing, which finishing line from Bindwell would you recommend for books?
So finally, if you are, see, we don't manage roles. So we have not gone backwards to the role kind of thing. We start handling it from sheets, or we could also suggest solutions when the reel is cut and then folded or made into a signature. The moment that is done, from there we start making everything in line in terms of be it our either the short run Freedom 2K binder or a book on one, which is an Insta connected to a trimmer, which is trimmed 30 SRP. So we do not provide the kind of solutions which are given by, let's say, Hunkler and Innow and things like that. There are others who are doing that. So they are more connected to the printing side than from the reel. We don't start. We start probably after the sheeting is done or the folding is
done. There's more curiosity about the PUR. Why Alok Jain wants to know why PUR technique is not so popular in our country.
It's global, Alok. It's not just about in India. The kind of promise PUR held was huge. I mean, they said you can make books will never get destroyed. And then it said whatever books you are doing thread sewing, whether it's for hardcover or soft cover, we could do it using PUR and look at the kind of savings in terms of turnaround times and workflow and things like that. PUR is used by a lot of Indian printers like Thomson Press, Repro, Pragati. You have Swapna Printing and Manipal. So PUR is still here among large printers. The challenge of PUR is the equipment is different from what we use for hot melt. And the whole process of the adhesive not immediately settling, you need to keep this for some time before it is shipped. So it's basically handling. So if you look at the evolution of bookbinding, earlier days it used to be thread sewn or hand sewn and wire stitched, and then you had to draw a cover on top of that. All those things were made very simple by our bookbinding machines. The perfect binders came in, it became so easy to handle. So it was a delight for the customer, delight for the printer, delight for the publisher, delight for the operators. Well, as PUR requires a certain level of know-how plus equipment, which is expensive, and the adhesive again, which is much more expensive than the regular hot melt adhesive. Finally, it gives the result, which is fantastic. So if you say it's actually ideal for tropical conditions like India, but it's not very easy to install. So production or making such books are not very easy.
There is a question from Divya Jyoti Sharma, who's the Printweek's book publishing editor. He wants to know about, he's talking about Bindwell's Drupa mantra. Sure, where you said that 7 out of 10 books produced in India have been touched by Bindwell machines, services, or adhesives. The question he asks is, what is the role of the gift a book to a child corner at the Bindwell stand?
So this is something which came out in 2019 in one of these trade shows. We partnered with Printweek and our long-term partner Henkel Adhesives, and also with a lot of publishers like Hachette, and Uganda Morse, Oxford University Press, and so on and so forth. Like I said sometime before, the biggest challenge to books is not the digital devices. I mean, I'm not talking about education and this is reading as a habit. The biggest challenge is that reading as a habit is not growing. Children are not reading enough. I had read to my elder daughter stories. She became a voracious reader. When it became the case of my second daughter, I did not have time. We were struggling. We were running from post to pillar. I did not have time, so she's more attuned to digital viewing of entertainments. So in order to bring children, and it's definitely known that if you have read books, you have read stories, more stories. I mean, not so much of management books. If you have read good books, you evolve as a different person. I mean, you are able to have a different empathy. You are able to connect to things better and stuff like that. So the benefits of reading is huge, and how to cultivate or how to develop a generation of youngsters who are reading more than what their earlier or their elders used to do. So the idea started with gift a book to a child. So if you inculcate the habit as early as possible in their life, gifting a book, and when they start reading it, they discover a new world. So to gift a book to a child is known to you or unknown to you. We said, we will collect books which are good stories, whether it is comic books or books for children, from all these publishers, collate them, and then start giving it away to people who can then go and gift it. So if I give one to you, Sriram, you will go and gift to a child whom you don't know. I mean, maybe a friend's child, or even you don't know. We don't know what kind of a spark that is going to create in him or her. If that helps that child read and then get into something as a habit, then we have achieved something. So that was the whole thought process of gift a book to a child. And this year we are doing it on a major way. A lot of publishers have come forward helping us. We are doing this on a regular fashion wherever we are participating in exhibitions, doing the same thing.
I think that's the best way to sign off on our webinar today, where we inculcate the habit of reading further. Thank you so much, Sajid sir. I think also the business opportunities that awaits the industry is exciting. We hope the market can seize the opportunity in 2025.
Yes.
And we also urge all of you to visit PrintPack, which will also give you more insights into the possibilities, and meet Bindwel team there. And I know there are a lot more questions. I think all this can be addressed in person with Sajid sir and team.
Yeah.
Before I sign off, let me share what we at Print Week are doing. The managing editor of Print Week and What Packaging, Noel Diguna and Rahul Kumar, will be present with a 10-member team at PrintPack. The plan is as follows: 2 e-newsletters per day. I repeat, 2 e-newsletters. This will contain 10 stories. This includes 2 breaking news stories from PrintPack, 2 stalls of the day, 2 product launch of the day, VIP speak with the visitors at PrintPack, 1 or 2 tech features. And the first newsletter will be published at 10:10 a.m. in the morning, the second one at 6:06 p.m. in the evening. This is all Ramanathan's doing the timing. So if you have doubts on why it is at 6:06 or 10:10, please reach out to him. And please do subscribe. Ensure you subscribe, ensure your team subscribes, and also tag Print Week wherever you can. Thank you, everyone. I once again like to thank Sajid sir. It was fabulous, and he ensured that he could prod the book printers to ask the right questions to their customers, understand the trends, be it self-publishing, segmented personalization, customization, and one book personalization. The takeaway from the 60 minutes or so, the book opportunities are huge, and the book fraternity needs to bind well much more often. Thank you, everyone, and we'll all see you at PrintPack.
Thank you.
Thank you.